Waku Waku 7 is an arcade fighting game from 1996 on the Neo Geo MVS arcade cabinet. Waku Waku is a Japanese onomatopoeia used to convey excitement, and there exists not a Waku Waku series. The 7 in this name is actually related to the story. In it, 7 fighters compete to collect the 7 balls which will then grant their wish. If you're not too familiar with games of the Japanese persuasion, I suppose Waku Waku 7 might look like one of those weird Japanese commercials that you occasionally see on YouTube, but for me, the art style of the game is one of the things that immediately drew me to it. Everything's round and bright, the color palette is pleasing, and the only issue I have with the graphics is the seizure-inducing white flashes that this game shares with some of the other games of the Neo Geo arcade cabinet. The other thing that drew me to this game was how easy it was to pick up. I'll get to that later. Waku Waku features 7 characters in single player and 9 characters in versus mode. There's Rai, who's meant to be a young hero wannabe protagonist, Arena, an energetic girl with bunny ears, Dandy J, a very manly Indiana Jones, Maru, a giant purple rabbit cat hybrid, Slash, a serious looking elf with a sword, Tess, a robot maid, and Polatank, a robot tank piloted by a policeman and his dog. As for the gameplay, playstyles and moves of each character vary pretty greatly. The story can be played in single player mode. You choose your character and your opponents are chosen for you. There's not much story actually. The background serves as an explanation as to why your character has to fight all these people, and after beating all your opponents and completing the bonus rounds, you get the win screen, which tells you what your chosen character does with their wish. The game is available on the platform Fightcade, so while it was made for an arcade cabinet for 2, you can actually play against people from around the world on your PC with an internet connection. If you have a controller or 2, you can also play with someone side by side. The controls are great, it's a fighting game after all. The focus of the game is the gameplay, so it needs to feel good. I played mostly as Arena, who functions very similar to Ryu from Street Fighter, down to some of the controls. On to how easy this game is, what makes Waku Waku easier than the rest of the games is its similarity to Street Fighter. Not just Arena, but the whole playstyle allotted by the game's mechanics. Before I found the game, I was looking for an easy fighting game. I already owned some fighting games, but I just couldn't get anywhere in them. The most popular current fighting games were made with a competitive scene in mind, with the exception of Street Fighter V. Alright, they did try to make it competitive, but they didn't do very well at it. Anyways, if you watch pro tournaments, you'll just see these massive combos, just hitting a stunned opponent until the game forces you to stop. Not only do you have to form the muscle memory to input combos, but you have to memorize them. This doesn't mean that I hate steep learning curves, and I do enjoy watching tournaments. I think they can actually make a game really interesting, and it feels rewarding when you make progress. But learning curves in fighting games are unlike any genre. The learning curves make it often a genre not for casual players. Even with a great time spent playing, without proper practice you can remain a button masher forever. Street Fighter is the exception, because it's mostly oriented towards neutral game, or footsies. For non-fighting game folk, that means the kind of fight where both players keep a good distance away from each other and attack at the right moments, as opposed to combo game, where your goal is to hit your opponent successfully and go in and do as much damage as possible. By the way, you can combo in this game, as well as in Street Fighter. In fact, in Street Fighter you want to get from neutral game to comboing, but Waku Waku allows you to do fairly well without it. The game gives you a tutorial at the startup about the basic controls. It is an old arcade game. They didn't program tutorial levels at the time. It doesn't have a training stage either. If you want a dummy opponent, you're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. That is, insert 2 coins. You have your movement and 4 buttons. Newer fighting games typically have around 6 buttons. Outside of basic controls, however, are your typical fighting game mechanics. You have to figure this out by yourself. I just used an internet guide, but you have to figure out things by yourself. In the tutorial, they say that the A button delivers a light punch. That is true, but if you crouch, your character does a low punch. It's kinda intuitive, but sometimes not. For instance, heavy punch while not doing anything performs a heavy punch. That is expected, but a crouching heavy punch doesn't do a low punch, it does an uppercut. You use this punch on your opponent when they try to jump at you. There's also command moves, basically a special move that requires you to move your character in multiple directions before attacking. The game shows you how to do these when you choose your character, so it's 4 buttons, but it's far more than 4 attacks. You have to discover your attacks and then develop a use case for them. And so the responsibility of learning the fundamentals of fighting games fell onto me and my determination. The average person might be able to get through 2 or 3 rounds in single player mode. They might even be able to beat the whole thing, but if you were to fight someone on versus mode who knew what they were doing, you'd never beat them. This is because you have to play consciously. It's not just choosing and pressing attacks whenever you feel like it. There's a bit of a formula. You have to learn from your failures and form good habits. The game's not going to make itself easier. Unless you want every match to come down to chance, you have to get better. That's the shortcoming of this game. You must choose what to practice, and if you don't know what, then you have to do some research. Overall, Waku Waku 7 is a very solid game. It shines in its stylish presentation and decent accessibility. Its premise, if you don't find it too strange, is unique and refreshing, and if you don't want to have to live within this climate of combo-dependent modern fighting games, perhaps you can go back in time. Waku is not quite the game that takes great strides in introducing beginners into the fighting game genre, but it certainly is a nice and colorful place to start. Well, that's that. I hope nothing's wrong with the script. I played mostly as Arena, who functions very similar to Ryu from Street Fighter. Ryu from Street Fighter. Arena, who functions very similarly to Ryu, Street Fighter.